Come and have fun with Drupal.
Hi, welcome back to Drupal Fever. This is the third chapter in how to set up a Drupal development environment on your local computer. Let's go back to our list of primary requirements. On our last video, we went over the steps to set up VirtualBox on your computer. Now we are going to concentrate on installing Linux on your virtual machine. But before we continue, I feel like I have to address this question that I'm sure you must be itching to ask. I have asked the same question myself years ago. Why Linux? As I have mentioned on the previous video, you only need to set up an AMP in your computer in order to have Drupal running locally. If you Googled around, you must have found several open source projects that would address this problem. WAMP server, for example, can easily set up an AMP on Windows in a single shot. But as I have learned on my almost 2 decades of experience as a web developer, there is nothing like the real thing. Linux is dominant when it comes to web hosting. All the major web hosting providers in the world use Linux. Whether you like it or not, when the time comes to publish your website, you will end up having to deal with Linux one way or another. Look, there are other amenities in running your development environment natively on Linux that can never be simulated on WAMP server or similar solutions. You will want to have access, for example, to Drush, SSL, or Git. Even though you can make these tools work natively on Windows or Mac, you will have to go through great lengths to achieve that. Furthermore, it will be not without some sort of compromise in performance or features. I could go on and on here and never be able to convince you that this is the best way to set up your Drupal development environment. It all comes down to faith. Please, believe me. The virtue of learning Linux sooner rather than later is unquestionable to me. You will have to trust me on this one. Well, now that I've got it out of my chest, I would like to discuss my decision to use CentOS as my Linux distribution. When facing with the question of what Linux distribution to use, I'm sure that most people that have used Linux before would argue that the clear choice would be Ubuntu. Ubuntu is the most popular and easy to use Linux distribution for the desktop. Defending my decision will not be easy. To answer this question, I would have to dive deep into the history of Linux distributions. And I decided to spend some quality time examining this subject in a future video. For the time being, you will have to trust me on this one as well. So let's get back to the task at hand. We're going to start by opening our web browser and Googling for CentOS. You will need to go to the CentOS website and click on the Downloads link. There you will have to click on the Mirror List link. Now you can choose one of the FTP servers available. Now you go down and click on the latest version of CentOS, which is currently 6.3. Now you look for the ISOs link. This is the page that will have all the DVD images to download. Now you will have to choose between the i386 link, which will take you to the 32-bit version of CentOS and the x86 64 link, which will take you to the 64-bit version. You will have to choose the option that is comparable with the operating system you currently have on your computer. Now you will have to download the ISO DVD image with the installation files, which is this one. Don't download the live CD version. It has to be the bin version with the installation binaries. To install CentOS on a VirtualBox, you will not need a second DVD, but I decided to download it just for good measure. Since I have previously downloaded the files, there is no need to do it again. Let's just close the browser windows and minimize the Windows Explorer window. Now we are going to open the VirtualBox console and change one setting on our CentOS virtual machine. Now let's go to the Storage tab and you will click on the little blue CD icon where it says Empty. Now you go to the other blue CD icon on the right and click on it. On the menu drop-down, you select the option Choose a virtual CD/DVD disk file. Now you browse to where you downloaded the CentOS installation DVD image and click on the Open button. Now let's click on the OK button and run the CentOS virtual machine. As we go along this video, you will notice that in several parts I will accelerate the action just to save some time. Now the CentOS installation software is suggesting that you should test the hard drive where you are going to install CentOS. I would just skip this test. It is very early on the installation and you don't have support for mouse yet. You will have to select Skip by pressing the right arrow on your keyboard and pressing Enter. OK. We now have mouse support on the installation. You have to click on the Next button. We're going with English as our default language. We're going to leave it with the US keyboard. Here we are going to leave the default option, which is the basic storage devices, and go Next. We are OK with discarding any data on our virtual hard drive since it's empty. I would advise you to change the default host name from localhost to something else, like CentOS 6. The name localhost is already being used by Windows on the network, and you'll have problems in the future if you leave this setting as it is. I will leave the time zone as New York. I live in Florida, but we are on the same time zone. Now you will have to type the root user password. This is the equivalent to the administrator password in Windows. This is a very important password. Write this password down so you won't forget it. Now we are going to choose the first option, use all space, which is not the default option here. Now you click on Write Change to Disk. Again, my CentOS installation is going crazy fast here because I speeded up the video. Trust me, I don't have a supercomputer. Now you should choose Desktop here, which is the first option. Congratulations! Let's click on the Reboot button to continue with the installation. Now CentOS is rebooting. Let's move this window to the center again. Now we will continue with the configuration. Now you should type the name of your user. You will not log in to CentOS as root. You will log in with this user you are creating here. I decided to create a user called user. The full name will be username. Now type a simple password because you'll be typing this password all the time. CentOS is complaining that my password is too simple, but this is for local use. Select the option Date and Time Synced. We are not going to change any other setting here. Just leave it as it is. Now finish. Say yes. Say OK. I know, it's pretty annoying I have to reboot so many times. So now we have our new username. Let's click on this user and type our password. Log in. So we finished the installation, right? Not by a long shot. The virtual machine will only work correctly once we have installed the VirtualBox Additions package on CentOS. This is not as simple as it should. For this, we're going to get our first taste of the Linux terminal. Hey, don't start sweating now. I will be right here with you all the way. You click on the Applications menu, System Tool, and Terminal. I will have to stop here to change a configuration on the terminal window. You go to Edit, Profile, Preferences, Colors. Uncheck the Use Colors from System Theme. We're going to choose black for the background color and light gray for the text color. I feel like it's a little easy on the eyes, and besides it's cooler. Now we need to acquire the root user privileges on the terminal. For this we need to type su -- command and press enter. Now you type the root user password. As you can see here, the terminal prompt is showing to you what user you are logged in as on the terminal. Before you had user and now you have root. Another thing that changed as well is the character right before the cursor. With a regular user, you have a $, and when you are logged in as root, the symbol changes to a £. One of the things we need to know is what version of CentOS we have. I know which one I have because I just installed it, but if we were on a Linux computer and wanted to know if you had a 64-bit OS or 32-bit OS, you would have to use the uname --i command. The problem with installing VirtualBox additions is because you will have to install first the VirtualBox kernel module. That's where the problem lies. I'm going to have to take a little pause here to explain the Linux repository concept. On Windows, if you want to install a new program, you go buy the installation CD and install it on Windows. A year later, if the same program has updates or new features, you go and buy the newer version and install it from a new CD. As you know, Linux is free, and virtually every software that we will need to set up our Drupal development environment will also be free. On Linux, you freely download your software from a couple of central storage locations. They are called repositories. If a year later the software you downloaded has new updates or features, they are downloaded automatically. CentOS comes configured with 3 default repositories. They are called Basic, Extras, and Updates. You can get most of what you will ever need from these default repositories. However, every now and then you will need to install a software from a repository other than the default repositories. That's the case with the VirtualBox kernel module. This software is available for free from the RPM Forge repository. So we will first set up the RPM Forge repository on our CentOS installation. But before going anywhere, we need to first update CentOS. We are going to run the command yum update, which is the Linux equivalent to Windows Update. I just checked the default repository, and it is saying that it needs to update 147 packages. The total download will be of 256 megabytes. Just press Y and press Enter. Okay. This is a little CentOS annoyance that we can take care of right away. The screensaver is kicking in and locking us out. Let me type the user password and go to System, Preferences, and Screensaver. Let's uncheck the checkbox where it says Lock Screen when screensaver is active. While we are there, let's change the screensaver to Cosmos. I like that one. Now close. Now let's open a browser and type wiki://wiki.centos.org/additional resources/repositories/RPM Forge. Remember, this URL is case sensitive. Now you will need to go to the bottom of the page and click on the link that says repositories/RPM Forge. Now we need to click on the link for CentOS 6, which is the version of CentOS we have here. We know that the version of CentOS we have is the 64-bit version, so we will need to copy the link for the x86_64 repository. Back to our terminal. It's asking for another confirmation. Just type Y again and press Enter. Let me center this window a little better. Now that the updates are finished, we're going to install the RPM Forge repository. First of all, we need to go to the etc/yum.repos.d folder. This folder is where all repository information is located. To get there, we need to use the cd command that stands for change directory. For the old school Windows users, this is just like the MS-DOS cd command. The command prompt is reflecting the directory change, as you can see here. If you want to find out in what folder exactly you are located on the terminal, you can use the command pwd. As you can see here, we're going to download a file here. You just need to type the following: rpm space -- import space http://apt.swrpm-gpg/key.dag.txt. Remember, all URLs are case sensitive. Oops, we got an error message here. I know why. We are not connected to the internet yet. Let's fix that. Now, if you need to repeat a command that you typed before, you can use the up and down keyboard arrows to go back to the previous command. That's what you're going to do here. Now press enter. Now let's just clear the screen. We need to go to the root of our hard drive. We do that by typing cd space /. Now we are going to make a folder on the root of our hard drive. For this, we're going to use the mkdir command followed by the name of our folder. Now hold your horses, Linux purists. I decided to create a folder called Program Files on my Linux to help ease in the Windows users. The majority of the people that will be watching this video are going to be Windows users or former Windows users. Now we need to enter inside of this new folder. Notice that part of the folder name appeared instantaneously. This is a little Linux trick. When you start typing a file name or a directory name, you can press the Tab key to ask Linux to guess the rest of the name. This is a pretty useful trick. Now I'm typing the ll command that will list the content of the current directory. This is like the dir command in MS-DOS. Currently, there's nothing inside of this folder. pwd is currently showing where we are located. Now, let's create another directory by using the same mkdir command. The new folder will be called rpm. When you type ll again, you can see now that the folder Program Files has another folder inside called RPM. We know that RPM is a folder and not a file because it has the letter D at the beginning of the description. Now let's go into the RPM folder and type pwd to see where we are. We are inside the Program Files /RPM folder. We need to download the RPM forge file with the wget command. Let's go back to the browser and copy the link to the file that we need to download. Now we need to right-click on the terminal window and select Paste. Now we need to press Enter. Now we can type ll again and see that the RPM file is there. Now we are going to check the integrity of the downloaded file. It could have gotten corrupted during the download process. We can do that by typing rpm space dash uppercase K space and the name of the file that was downloaded. Don't forget to use the tab key trick to autocomplete the file name. Press enter. The file is OK, as you can see here. Now it's time to install the repository file. We do that by typing the command rpm space dash I space plus file name. Enter. That's it. Now let's see if CentOS recognizes our new repository. Let's execute another yum update to see if the RPM forge repository appears on the list of repos. There it is. We have the basic, extras, RPM forge, and updates. Finally, we can install VirtualBox additions. To install VirtualBox additions, we will have to install the VirtualBox kernel module. The command to install the VirtualBox kernel module is yum space dash y space install space dkms, where the -y option will automatically answer yes to any prompt during the installation. Yum will find any dependency and install whatever else is required by dkms. Now we need to use a key combination to bring up the VirtualBox additions prompt. The key combination is the host key, which in our case should be the control key on the right side of the keyboard, plus the D key on your keyboard. Now click OK on the auto run prompt. Let's minimize the other windows before we continue. Now click on the Run button. You need to type the root password here and click on the Authentication button. The installation is finished, so now we need to press Enter to close this terminal window. Go back to the other terminal window and type Reboot to restart your virtual machine. Now again, I'm speeding up the reboot. This last reboot is the slowest of them all. In my case, once the progress bar became completely white at 100%, it stayed there for 9 minutes. So be patient on this reboot. Go get a cup of joe, sit back and relax. You're almost there. Okay, let's log in again. Type the user password. Now I need to reconnect to the internet again by clicking on the System ETH0 option. Now we should resolve this internet reconnection problem once and for all. Click again and select Edit Connections. Now you click on the Edit button. Here you check on Connect Automatically and click on the Apply button. Again, we need to type the root user password. Let's close it. There is a warning here, so let's check it out. Oh, nothing important. Let's just delete this warning and close this window. As you can see here, after installing VirtualBox additions, the mouse behaves much better and the window can be resized. The virtual machine OS will automatically readjust its internal resolution to reflect the window size change. Most importantly, you can share the clipboard and copy stuff back and forth between the host OS and the virtual machine OS. Now, I want to remove the CD image from my virtual CD drive because I don't want the VirtualBox CD icon showing up on my desktop. We need to go to Devices, CD/DVD Devices, and select the option Remove Disk from Virtual Drive. Another cool thing that VirtualBox does is that it takes a snapshot of everything that is open on your virtual machine and saves it away. The next time you open your virtual machine, everything will be there just the way you left it. For this to work, you need to select Save the Machine State when you are closing your virtual machine. It will close pretty fast and it will reopen just as fast. Now let's close it again. And one last thing. We're going to create a shortcut on the desktop for our virtual machine, so the next time we need to run CentOS, we're not going to need to open first the VirtualBox console. That's it. I know that this video was long, but it was necessary. I will be making more videos in the future about CentOS, but that's it for now. I'm trying to make a new video per week, but this thing is a dog to produce on my limited spare time. Please subscribe to my channel to be informed about my next video in the Drupal Development Environment series. This is Elias Barbosa. See you next time.